John Warkentin here from Michael's Camera. Today I'm joined by Stef Ferro again. It's our second time we've had Stef in for a little interview to talk a bit about photography, but this time we're talking about travel photography.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me again. Really nice to be here back. Yes, indeed. Just back from a trip, 5 weeks trip, which took me to Europe and the Middle East.
So now, as I understand it, you were tagging along with a Panasonic camera that our friends at Panasonic lent you for the trip so you could evaluate it, and it's the GH5 that we've got sitting right here.
Yeah, I was lucky enough that Panasonic, I had a loan from Panasonic for 880mm just a few days before I booked the tickets, and I had to book my ticket just 2 days before the flight. So it was a very spontaneous trip.
Spontaneous, but 5 weeks.
Yeah. We planned a little bit in advance, but we didn't know when we could actually leave. So as soon as we got the go, then we booked the tickets. So I had this camera with me. I asked Panasonic, and they said, yeah, you can take it. And they sent me also a GH5, which is one of my favorite cameras, I must say, with 12-60mm. So I had 2 cameras and 2 lenses this time, which is fine because this was a trip where a more stable trip. You know, I spent 1 week here, 1 week there, so it was not continuous moving, and a little bit away was not too bad.
So now, is this your first time using the GH series?
The GH series, yes, it's the
Okay.
first time. So I was really happy to have a go and see how actually it was performing.
Now, this is a little bit of a leading question here because I know we're going to talk a little bit about still photography, but this camera is very renowned for its video features. Did you have a chance to play with it?
I did, and I was really surprised actually I could do some good videos.
Oh, wow.
So this is to say that I don't think I'm a good video maker, honestly. I guess when you do photos, you have a composition eye, and that's very important also in the video. But in saying that, it takes a little bit more than that. So I was happy I was able to do something. I still have to post-process that, and that will take a little bit.
Well, I know a little bit about video, just a very little bit. I know that it takes a long time to deal with it after the fact, sometimes so long that you maybe don't. I've got some topics coming up where we want to, bridge this gap between the stills photographer and the videographer, because a lot of us are trying to make that move, but it's a whole different ball game with video. It's large files. It's editing can be very time intensive, and as a matter of fact, it's one of the reasons why we use a live production switcher when we're doing our in-house videos here at Michael's, because editing is so time consuming. So we're basically editing on the fly with 3 cameras in front of us and a virtual camera here with the laptop. But anyway, I digress. So what's your first impression on the GH5? How's it feel in your hand? How's it responding as a photographer's tool?
Look, the handling is just fantastic. If you are used to a DSLR, which I usually go with, it's pretty similar. I guess the drawback of that is that it's quite big compared to a mirrorless that we are used to, like a GX85 or take a Fujifilm or any other camera like that. The look is not probably the best as well. You know, the GX5, for example, has a little bit of a retro style, vintage style. Fujifilm are all fantastic from a look. And this one is not, but this one has everything is inside, you know, and that's the beauty of this camera. I learned I usually shoot a lot with a viewfinder, doesn't matter what camera, but with this one, you can actually play so much, and you can put in all positions, down, there. And especially when I was doing some street photography in the first location in Greece, when the first country I touched, I was never actually using the viewfinder, never. I just used down, because in that way, even when I was talking with people, I had eye-to-eye contact instead of having, like a camera in front of me, which was creating a sort of wall. So in that respect, I really, really like it.
These fold-out displays are very liberating, and we didn't have them in our digital SLRs for the longest time, and when they've added them, it's not that many of the high-end digital SLRs have the fold-out displays, and of course when you use those with those cameras, you're using usually a weaker focus system. So these mirrorless cameras are sort of giving us the best of both worlds. Now, that stated, how is the eyepiece viewfinder? What's your opinion?
The electronic viewfinder is honestly, very, very similar to what it is now in optical viewfinder.
Yeah. So
On-
it's
on
at the
this
point
camera.
where it's not a disappointment.
That's
You
right.
can do what you need it to do.
Yeah, I think in this case, Panasonic has improved so much compared only 2 years ago.
Yes.
That I can't see too much anymore of a difference between the two.
Yeah. So that's really important to our viewers. So you don't need to fear the electronic viewfinder. It's got what you need optically now. There's enough resolution that it's not like looking through, an egg crate or anything. And of course, it's got all these extra display modes. There's so much more information that can be displayed. And of course, the thing that I just always find crazy, and it takes me hard for me to get my head wrapped around it, is you can take a picture and you don't need to move the camera away from your eye to see the result.
Yeah,
I was actually having someone photograph me the other day with a camera with an electronic viewfinder, and I kept waiting for her to take the camera away and look at the back LCD, and it's like, what's wrong with this picture? Is it not good enough? Are you waiting for me to smile? I wasn't sure. But as it turns out, of course, she's looking at the results in the electronic viewfinder. It's crazy.
So true.
Yeah. So what else makes the GH5 a winner in your book?
Dynamic range. I think this is the first Panasonic. It's a new processor, and the reason I wanted to test it now, the GH5, it came out probably 6 months ago, I reckon. I was in a photography show and I talked with the Panasonic guys and said, look, you should try it because the new processor is so much better with dynamic range. And in fact, is really again a step up from Panasonic, I believe, because when you go in post-production, you can take out details from the shadows, from the highlights, which you couldn't before in a mirrorless, in an MFT mirrorless, I think. So it's well done, and I'm quite curious to see now they're gonna announce very soon the new GX8, the next, won't be called probably GX9, I was said, because they're gonna use part of this camera, I believe.
Oh, okay, interesting.
I think it's very successful.
So we're really at this sort of magic spot in the marketplace where the top quality sensors, even in their smaller format, like the Micro Four Thirds, which is it's a relatively small format, they're still pulling amazing detail out of it. I mean, the engineering teams behind these sensors are just, it's almost a miracle what they can do with these things. So you don't need to worry about, like the old adage, oh, you've got to have full frame. Down to Micro Four Thirds, which is like basically half the width of a full frame sensor, full frame 35 mil, they're still producing great results, and you're getting this in a much smaller package. So even though this is a little bit bigger than some of its mirrorless counterparts, that's still a very, very small camera in the hand. And then with a smaller, like a pancake lens or what, very travelable. Of course, this is the Leica Panasonic 8-18 now. That's a pretty high-end lens. How is it performing for you?
Very well. I mean, I could do on the wide side, the very wide side, 8mm. I could
which
do
which is in 35 mil terms for those who, it's a 2-to-1 crop factor. So 8 mil on Micro Four Thirds is 16 mil effective. So that is wide, very wide.
Extremely wide, yeah. But I couldn't, of course, you see some distortion in the lines, that's fine. And you will see in the photos, I haven't corrected the distortion in the photos for that reason. And you will see there is not much distortion as you expect from 8mm. So I'm not sure if the distortion is corrected through the lens, or there is a little bit also for the camera that does a little bit of correction, I'm not sure. But definitely the result is very good, I reckon. Plus, the other good thing about this lens is that the zoom is internal. So there is no movement.
Length. Yes.
Which, again, when you go into the street, I don't like to talk with someone and then zoom in maybe, and you see the lens going back and forward, and it's always taking attention. So the attention goes to the camera and doesn't go to me and maybe the chat we are doing. So I quite like it.
And so what's the speed of this lens?
F2.8 to F4.
Okay, so it's variable. Okay.
Yeah, it's
so
a
at the
variable.
wide end, it's 2.8.
Yeah,
oh, well, that's
right.
good. Now, geez, there was a couple other little questions I was just thinking, and I kind of lost my train of thought. But I'll let you. Let's take a look at some of the photos then.
Oh, the other thing I just wanted to say about this camera, which I found it very interesting. Where you have a dial here, and you can go from the photo side to the, to the video side. So you go manual video or manual aperture and so on. So the good thing is that whatever setting you do to the video, when you move to the photography side, it doesn't affect that.
Okay.
So once you move back to the video side, it's gonna take what the setting was. So, and that's incredible because sometimes, at least in my case, I use the camera for both video and photo. Otherwise, I would have every time to change things, and it didn't happen. So that's a big plus to me.
So basically, what you're saying is the video subsystem is kind of independent from the photography system.
Yeah.
So, well, that's great because, of course, the settings you need for video are very, very different than the settings you need for photography.
Yeah.
And that is a big problem with a lot of the digital SLRs because you're just hitting a switch between video and stills mode, and it's keeping the current, be that aperture priority or manual modes, it's keeping that. So yeah, that's a great feature. Oh, that's what I was going to ask you. How's the battery life?
The battery life has improved compared to other cams, to the GX, for example, series. I think it's less compared to the GH4. Still, it's quite a big battery, as you see.
Oh yeah, that's pretty
So I think it's probably is about 300 photos.
Yeah.
So it's not too bad. I mean, and honestly, if you think that you use it the whole day, I would buy another one probably just to be sure. But
so did you do the whole trip with just one battery?
just one battery.
Oh really? Okay then. And
because I had also 2 cameras, so I had always a backup solution.
yes. But they don't share the same battery, do they?
No, it's
okay,
different
then.
battery. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay then. Now, what other lenses have you had a chance to try out on this?
I tried the 12-60mm, which perfect companion to this one, I guess, because this is 818, so it goes to 36 in a full frame format, and the other one goes up to 120mm, so really all I needed. When traveling, I don't like to take more than 2, maximum 3 lenses.
Now, as I understand it, the GH5 has got an in-body stabilizer, which has got the latest technology. And of course, some of the lenses also have optical stabilizers in them, and the two can work hand in hand. Do you have anything to report on that? Were you able to get some amazing long exposures handheld?
Look, you will see I have a few photos that I did at 1/10 of a second. No problem at all. Very, very sharp. This is, I think, 5-axis. The lens, this lens is not stabilized, but the 12-60mm is stabilized, so you can put the 2 of them, especially when you do video, probably it's better. And yeah, I mean, I didn't have any problem.
Oh, that's good. Well, let's have a little look through your photos and tell us, how the camera helped you to, achieve what you wanted to do. So should we start off with the first one here?
Yep.
Okay.
So I started my trip in the north of Greece, on the border with Turkey. And the beauty of this place is just the people. And the reason is that this is an area which was, in the last 1,000 years, went from Greece to Turkey, to Greece to Turkey. So there is a huge mix of Turkish people and Greek people in the same place. And it works. There is no discrimination that you can feel. My wife is actually from that area, so I know that area quite well, sort of well at least. And we are in a local market here where you see a fantastic mix of food that comes from the Middle East, food that comes more from the European side. It's quite incredible. I really like in that respect. Here, for example, I used this photo, I used a very fast shutter speed, 1,000 of a second, just because it was a lot of light. But when I was in the market, I was always working with 880mm, which was perfect, to work around, and always with my LCD open, and the camera most of the time was down. I didn't want really to show it too much. That's what I feel like I should do, because I don't want to take the attention, I don't want to attract attention.
So basically, the camera enables you to get a type of shot that you maybe wouldn't have been able to get with your big digital SLR system. Because if I'm not mistaken, you're a Nikon shooter.
I'm a Nikon
shooter. And I think you had, what was it, a D810?
D610.
D600. Okay, so that's a much larger camera. That's makes a bit of noise when that shutter is depressed. So it brings a bit of attention to you.
Yeah, it looks expensive, even if probably this one is actually more expensive. But it looks expensive, it's big, it looks professional.
And that changes the way people are going to interact with you. So you're not you're trying to get the natural environment, what's happening, without you altering it. And so the camera's been able to help you achieve that.
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's part of the environment. The other one, the big one, is more an introduction to the environment.
Okay, Well, and that's very important. I mean, it's kind of the difference now. You know, everybody's got a cell phone and is taking pictures, so everybody just ignores it. But when you pull out a big, you know, lens this big or whatever, people stop and it's like they don't want to be photographed anymore. So you kind of want to fade into the background, and you know, a camera such as the GH5 here is perfect for that because you can sort of shoot from the hip with that fold-out display. It's very nice.
Yeah. And plus, you know, with lenses like 818 or 12 millimeter, I like to go closer to my subject. I don't like to have a big zoom, you know. It even looks weird, I think, because people believe you're doing something wrong, you know, when I think in the street. So it's good to be closer, and with a camera with this one you can do it. If I go closer with a bigger DSLR, then it looks a little bit weird.
Yeah. Well, let's go over to the next shot here.
You know, this is another, I guess, shot of a street that I've done during my trip. It's all about really the life in these villages, you know, the music, and all comes from I guess originally from the Ottoman Empire. There is a mix of Bulgarian, because we are on the border also with Bulgaria there. Gypsy, I think these two people come from a gypsy family. So it's so interesting to see these different cultures getting together, you know, and dancing. And it was maybe a Saturday afternoon, I reckon. So you can see that people go in the square, they eat food, so it's really, really nice. European way, I guess.
Oh, yes. Now, did you have a chance to record some video of these performers?
I did.
Okay, well, so we can look forward to that once you edit it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And the second part of my trip, I was in Italy, and I went back to where I was born, which is in the Lakes area, in the north of Milan, on the border with Switzerland. So I did everything that a tourist probably does, even if I am originally from there. And we are on the lakes here, on the Lake Maggiore, and on a boat approaching one island. So again, I used 10 millimeter, very wide. I just wanted to show the place, but show also how to get to the place, you know, and that's why I had also this boat, part of the boat, it was into my frame.
So we go forward then?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, in the cathedral.
Yeah, again, 8 millimeter.
Yes.
When I went back to my photos on Lightroom, I noticed how many photos I took at 8 millimeter. A lot. I got addicted to that. And you see, on this one I shoot at 1/13 of a second, yeah, just because the light was very low. Obviously, it was in a chapel in a hermitage. On a lake. Probably the next photo we show the place from outside. And that's what is good of these cameras. You know, the problem with, I think, with a mirrorless MFT, with many people, they say that you know, as soon as you go up with the ISO, you start seeing a little bit of noise, which is probably true, but now with stabilization of the cameras, you can go down to levels where we couldn't before. So now I'm shooting at 1/10 of a second, 1/13 of a second. It's very, very low. If I do that on my camera, you probably can see some movement. So that's the beauty. The ISO, you don't need to pump it up anymore as we used to.
Now, have you done much work in Lightroom on this particular shot?
I did on the central part of the photo, just because it was very bluish. So I had to do the white balance just on the central part. Otherwise it was looking weird, because on the sides the light was good, but the central side was too blue.
It certainly seems to have maintained highlight detail very well.
Yeah.
And you've got good details in the shadows. So for ISO 800 on a small format camera, I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, I think so.
Here, let's go to the next.
And this is the chapel was under the tower bell. So,
okay.
And this is from outside. It's quite an incredible place, Hermitage. It's about probably 20 kilometers from the place I was born, but believe you me, now I'm almost 50 and never been there. So I took this time to go there and explore this lakes area and all of the places I wanted to. Yeah.
So it's like it's built into the side of a cliff.
Indeed.
Yeah.
It's a huge cliff, and sometimes you find this kind of constructions in few countries, you know.
Yeah.
I found another one in Turkey, another one in Greece, similar to this one. And now you can access also by car, but before you could access only by boat.
Oh.
So quite interesting. And now they installed also a lift to go up, so the people also where they couldn't walk, they can come down and visit the place.
Oh, that's very good. Okay. Oh, and again, now this is this the same location here? Or?
No, it's a different location.
The tower looked a little bit similar.
It's a different location. It's a big it's a medieval double bridge.
Okay.
There is one here and one on the back, and it goes into a gorge. It's a beautiful gorge, and you can see the water through for about 10 meters.
Oh wow!
So usually I was there in late September, so there was nobody there. But usually they go there to do some immersion into the water.
Oh, okay.
So it's really good to go and explore into the gorge, and there is a waterfall on the back. These are all sites just, I'm talking about 10 minutes from the lakes area.
Mm-hmm.
So fantastic.
Should we go forward?
Yeah. And here we move to Cyprus. My first time in Cyprus, never visited the place. And in Cyprus, you can go through 3 countries in about 10 minutes, which is quite amazing. Cyprus, there is the west side, which is Cyprus, what we call it as Cyprus. Then there is the east side, which is the Turkish Republic of Cyprus, and they divided probably 30 years ago. And then there is a road between these 2 countries, even if the Turkish Cyprus is not recognized by anyone except Turkey. But there is a road in the middle, I'm talking about just a few meters, which is England.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So in this trip, I like to say I've been to 4 countries plus 2. I've been also to England for a few minutes, and then I went to the Turkish side. And on the Turkish side, they took all of the churches, like this one, and they either transformed it into a mosque, or like in this case, they just emptied. And I was there with my kid, and just to give a little bit of a dimension. The 8mm in this case is essential, if you want to give a sense of how huge, how big is the place.
And again, you managed to get a slow shutter speeds. You've got good detail in the highlights. It's done very well.
Yeah. I mean, the camera in that respect is quite amazing. What you can take out from the shadows later on in post-production, I was surprised myself. And I use again my kit just to give a little bit of a direction of where we were going. It's a salt lake, and then there is on the end on the foreground, on the background of his photo, there is the most famous mosque in Cyprus, and I think in the top 4 in the world.
Oh yeah.
So it was quite interesting place, but I guess in this photo probably you don't notice there. You notice more about the lake, and. It was a funny story about that. I tried to walk down to the mosque, but I didn't realize that the more I was walking, the more my feet was going into the salt, and after the salt it was like that of mud.
Yeah.
So I ended up full of mud. So it was a complete disaster, but I really enjoyed it.
Oh, now that brings up an interesting question. How did you find keeping the sensor clean on this camera? Did you change lenses very often, or were there any issues at all?
I didn't have issues. It has to be said that because I had 2 cameras, I didn't used to change much lenses.
Okay.
Just I changed cameras.
You just changed cameras.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless I wanted to do some videos, so in that case I used the lens that I wanted to use.
Okay, well let's go ahead.
And we are in the Turkish side of Cyprus, and interesting, there is a place, it's called Varosha, I was not aware, which now is a ghost town. And you can't take any photo. I took this photo, but theoretically I wouldn't be allowed to take the photo, they say, because Varosha has been declared a military zone. So, and the nature repossessed the city. So all of the buildings that you see here are actually empty and falling apart. And here on the back, more on that side, there is the complete town submerged by the nature.
Oh, really?
So the nature actually repossessed all of these buildings. This was in the 60s one of the most famous places in the world where Brigitte Bardot used to go, and all of the big actors. But after the separation, or somebody called it invasion, they decided to leave it. The people had to leave, because they couldn't stay there anymore. So they left the place, but the Turkish side couldn't take the town. So what happened is that for 40 years now, nobody's living there, and nobody wants to actually deal with the problem. There is the UN, and but the interesting part, I guess, is that the nature is taking repossession of the structures of the buildings.
Wow. But you're not allowed to take pictures of it.
No, you can't go in. You can't go in.
What a shame.
Yeah, only owner can go in. It's you need to ask special permissions, and you can see a little bit. You can see with your eyes, but there are soldiers on the beach.
Yeah.
So they just look that nobody takes pictures.
Ah, interesting.
And here we move to Qatar. Now, this doesn't look like Qatar at all, maybe. Qatar is, I stayed there for 3 days. Now, Qatar is, you may know that in 2022 they have a soccer World Cup. So it's just to give an idea, it's the first place ever in my life I go with Google Maps and it doesn't work. Just because you drive, there are roads that are not supposed to be there. It looks like you're driving into somebody's house because there are new streets, new roads, new roundabouts. Everything is new. I always thought that in Melbourne we build a lot. It's nothing compared to there. So it was an incredible. And part of the cities of Doha, they built it as almost like a replica, in this case, of a French, I think Versailles, I think it's called. So on that night I was walking there and I met this Irish guy which was supposed to perform music in the night. So that was perfect, that was just the perfect contrast of I guess the French Quarter with an Irish guy with a kilt in Qatar. And yeah, it was on sunset obviously.
Yeah, and again, still sharp as a tack, a tenth of a second.
Yeah.
And you're able to go right down to ISO 100. If you didn't have that, you'd have to have raised your ISO.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And that's the beauty. You can go to 1/10 of a second. You can probably even lower than that, I reckon. I would have to try, but that's enough. Again, 1/10 of a second. I went to this market, which is a fantastic market in Doha. It's very original. You go into the small alleys, lanes, and everything. You want to give a little bit of action. You can freeze all of these people, but it's not the same as in this photo, I think, where you see people actually walking, and you start imagining what's happening there.
Yeah.
And 1/10 of a second, you can do that.
Yeah, and no need for a tripod. So unless you start getting into that area, it's just little enough to make the robe flow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's perfect.
And you can see from my photo, the camera was here, was not here. So it's, again, I think I use the only LCD, to be honest. Only when there was too much light when I used the EVF, otherwise always the LCD. Yeah, and as I said, I guess Doha and Qatar is a huge transformation, but still you find places which are so original. I wanted really the main place I wanted to go was this camel track. So which is like here we are crazy for horses, over there we are crazy for camels. And I didn't find any information online. I could do a tour, but I don't want to do a tour because then you do what you're supposed to do in a tour. So we rented a car and we went there. It was into the desert. And eventually we found the place, but they didn't race because we arrived there at 11. They usually do it at 6 o'clock in the morning because of temperature. It was 35 degrees, I think, and we had an incredible half an hour. Everybody was crazy after the kid. Yeah. The kid is blonde and blue eyes, so it was definitely contrast with everybody else there. And in this case, I wanted to have, my subject was the camel, but it was good, I think, also to have the person riding the camel, the person looking after. And that's why I decided to go on f2.8, because in this way you still see, I guess, the silhouette of a rider, but the subject is here.
Yeah, that's a great shot. I love it. There we go. Okay.
And of course, the Sultan Palace, I like to call it. I work there with the Qatar, Visit Qatar, and yeah, I had this. I went to this place, which was it's an hotel, and but I've never seen something like that before. In an island, it was like one of his books that you read, and it's quite amazing. Yeah, the dimensions and I guess the money that is there, everything. You know, it's Qatar.
Yeah. So a great application for wide angle, 8mm again.
Yes, probably you've seen most of my photos were into the 8mm to 12mm. I like to stay closer to my subject when I have a subject. I don't like to stay too far away.
And I don't see a lot of distortion at all. I don't really see anything. All the straight lines are straight, so I think it's performing quite well.
Yeah, I didn't do any correction at all on distortion, just because I think, especially when you do photos, you show photos of a lens, you want to show what you have, not what. I'm fine with shadows and highlights. I mean, that's actually, it's good to do post-production because it can give an idea of how much the camera actually is recording as details. It's not faking the photo as such, I don't think, because I saw much more details with my eyes when I was there, right? So I'm trying to document what I'm seeing.
And then we're back. Okay, well, so round it up. Is it a camera you think you'd purchase?
Look, if you're thinking that video is the main thing for you, if you're thinking that you are going into the video side, I would purchase, because this is a fantastic camera for video, I believe. Plus, you have another fantastic side, which is a photography. Buying only for photography, yeah. It has, I mean, it costs a little bit. Is it probably around $2,500, if I remember well?
Yeah, I'm not even sure.
It has a cost, obviously, but it has a cost because you can do a lot with video and photography. Now, I heard rumors about the new top camera from Panasonic, but probably we're gonna take just the photography side of it and implementing just the photography side of it, and will cost much less than this one, obviously. And we'll have also more features into photography. So I'm really looking forward to the new Panasonic, just for photography. But personally, for what I'm doing, I'm going in more and more into videos. So the question, would I buy it? Yes, I would.
Oh, well, that's the ultimate litmus test, yeah. Interesting. Now, so, what other Micro Four Thirds cameras? So you said you had the G. What was it? What was the other camera that you traveled with?
GX5.
GX5. Okay, yeah, I'm familiar with that one. That's sort of the sort of classic rangefinder style camera.
Yeah.
Yes. But now, is that your personal camera, or was that also from Panasonic?
No, from Panasonic.
That was okay.
Yeah.
So now, do you have a Micro Four Thirds system at all personally?
No.
But because of the video features you're considering, yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think MFT probably was not the best up to 1 year ago, but now it's really, with Olympus and this one, I think they went to a stage where you, especially if you don't print huge format, they are actually good. And you can do a lot of stuff, you know. And when I talk with lots of photographers and I ask, one of my first questions, I say, what do you do with your photos? How many actually say I print them? And of these people, how many actually they print more than A3? Just a tiny bit.
Yeah.
And so I say, should I use a full frame anymore? Not because I don't like full frame, it's just because for traveling, it's heavy.
It's just so big, exactly.
And the lenses, you know, even the Sony, for example, the Sony A7R, it's a fantastic camera and it's a tiny as well, but the lenses are lenses for full frame, obviously.
Exactly. And for what this lens is giving you, that's a very small lens for a 16 to 38 or 36 focal length.
Absolutely.
And still very fast at the wide end, and still just f4. You know, I've got a 16 to 35 f4 constant in my Canon system, and it's got to be twice the size of that easily. You know you're carrying it. Yeah. So there's a lot to be said for the more compact formats. And of course, this is this thing that people are always asking. How much resolution do I need? And resolution has turned into the marketing buzzword that all the camera companies are going. That is the lead specification. But for a lot of things, the resolution is not the most important thing you should be considering. You should be considering, how does it fit with your lifestyle? The weight, the usability, and what are you doing with the final photos? And then, of course, are you able to capture the photos that are representative of your memories? The shadows and the highlights. And can you shoot handheld? Because who wants to drag around a tripod when they're traveling? So there's a lot of these issues. And is it convenient? Can you shoot from the hip? With this fold-out display. So there's I must admit, I like the way this display flips out. I've always thought that's good. It gives you the best of both worlds. You can tilt it around, whereas a lot of the cameras are now just having these sort of fold down displays or fold up, and I don't find them that natural. So I really like this style, and it's a very good implementation. Well, that's wonderful that you came in. I really enjoyed going through your photos, and it's great to have you in a second time. And next time you've got something new to test out, and come back and do a report. And we're happy to have you again. So that's great. By the way, what is your next trip?
Well, next trip I'm preparing now, because in November I will be in Nigeria.
Nigeria, wow.
Yeah, so that would be only for 10 days. That would be super exciting, because I never thought actually I would go to Nigeria. But then, yeah, it's happening, and I'm really looking forward to it. The thing that I'm not looking forward are all of the vaccinations that I found out yesterday with the doctor. But that's part of traveling, I guess.
Yes, yeah, that's for sure. Well, when you come back from Nigeria, we'll have to come in and we'll have a talk and we'll go through some photos again.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
Excellent, Stef. So thanks so much for joining us, and thank you so much for hanging in with us for one of our long format, a bit of gear discussion, a bit of travel photography discussion. I hope you enjoyed it, and we hope to see you next time. Take care.
Thank you, John.